This is TWiT.
So we have a new law in California that, besides the privacy bill, AB 5, which is really sending a shockwave through freelance journalists in the state, was aimed at Uber. It was aimed at gig workers who were being mistreated by companies, not as they weren't employees, they were contract workers. But it's ended up really hurting a lot of my friends who are tech journalists who can no longer, well, Ant Pruitt, for example, can no longer work for Tech Republic because he moved to California. And the rules here about contract workers are so stringent that Tech Republic just doesn't want to deal with freelancers. I've seen the same thing. SB Nation had a number of editors who were part-timers submitting to their sports blogs who quit or were fired because of AB 5. Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash suing, as one might expect it. Postmates suing, as one might expect it. And then there's a bunch of money being raised for a ballot initiative to try to reverse AB 5. This is a complicated one because I understand how companies can take advantage of contract workers to avoid paying benefits, to avoid paying them well. And there have always been, some, series of rules that you had to satisfy to be a contract worker. But this now basically says, everybody needs to be an employee, and not every company can have employees.
But the issue with freelance journalists is interesting because they chose to write a very specific restriction into the law, something like 35 submissions per year.
That's right. The law also weirdly exempted direct salespeople, travel agents, grant writers, construction truck drivers, commercial fishermen. So there were these weird carve-outs, probably, again, lobbying from various industries. But it really hurt. I don't know about you, Ed, but I know a lot of freelancers who are kind of saying, wait a minute, this is not, I can't work.
Yeah, and I think that part of the law should be fairly easy to fix. It also is, I made a joke about it earlier, maybe before we were on air, talking about, these kids who are doing, basically they're doing piecework,
right,
for
$25 a post. Yeah.
And it really is exploitative. And I really would love to see that addressed. I'd love to see a system where people created some actual, where businesses like SB Nation and like Tech Republic, which I work for, by the way, if they, that they did more, hired more full-time employees, because that's what the country needs, is jobs, not gigs. Ultimately, gigs should be the thing that you do to make spare money. But it's turned into the thing where employers have figured out that they can use the gig labor system to basically just avoid hiring hardly any employees at all. The only employees they have to hire are managers and accountants.
I think that's what happened. It's not just Uber and Lyft, but Microsoft and Apple and Google all use third-party companies to hire contract employees who don't work for those companies. They work for the third-party companies. They don't get benefits.
Some do.
And some do, some don't.
I can tell you that from personal experience.
Yeah.
That some do, but as one of those contract workers, I get my taxes are paid, and I have the 401k.
And to be fair, Tech Republic said to Ant, "Well, you could be an employee," but the problem was that Ant had just taken a job with us and didn't want to be an employee of theirs. He's getting all those benefits from us. He wanted to continue to write for them, though. And that was part of the problem, was he couldn't continue to freelance for them. And they said, we'll hire you. It's a good company. It's ZDNet. And, and it was, and they did the right thing by him. It wasn't their fault, but he was caught between. And that's where this is an issue, is that it also restricts choice for people who do want to work for a variety of reasons as contractors.
But people will choose.
Ed,
people will choose to be exploited. if you.
I
give them
agree, and there are a
chance.
lot of kids out of college working $10 a post, killing themselves.
So, Ed, you said that that there was an easy fix to it. You thought for freelance journalists, what would that look like?
I hope I didn't say it was an easy fix. I think, but
You don't know the
fix is-
California Assembly.
No, I grew up in California, and my father was a legislator.
Oh, you do?
And
You do know the
and I've
California legislature.
I've read AB5 from start to finish several times, and it is a very specific sentence that is in there, and I think that if the legislator were interested in solving the problem, in identifying the problem and solving it, that it can be solved.
Would you do a carve out for journalists, or what would you do?
Well, I don't know what the answer is because I don't know what the problem.
Right.
I mean, I know what the big problem is, but I don't know. I don't know why they put that specific, 35 number.
That's
in there.
weird.
Does it say 35 posts or 1 day at CES? Is that how it's described in the legislation?
The legislator who wrote the bill was asked, where did the number come from? And she said, well, initially, it was basically out of a hat. We calculated 1 post a day, but then that was too much. They didn't ask anybody. They made it up.
Right.
I wish I could find that article. We talked about it.
And that's what needs to happen. And then that particular legislator got involved in a couple flame wars on Twitter,
right?
That were not pretty at all. So this has just been not a sterling example of the democratic process at work, for sure.
Yeah.
There haven't been many of those recently.
I might say it is, in a sense, that you do the best you can, and then you get feedback, and then it should be a feedback loop, and you fix it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
That would be ideal. You can't expect it to be perfect out the gate. You fix it, and the courts can help fix it. Legislators can help fix it. Unfortunately, as you know, Ed, here in California, we have a referendum process that's highly broken. And that's what's going to fix it, but it's not going to fix it in the right way, because it doesn't take very many signatures to get a proposition on the ballot in California. And basically, you can anything you want.
What do you have to? You're up to about Proposition 20,342 at this point, right?
Yeah, it's
and I'm old enough to remember Proposition 13.
Yeah, that was very famous. Limited property taxes.
Capped property
taxes.
Yeah.
The Jarvis bill.
Whose famous role in the movie Airplane.
Is he in Airplane?
He's in Airplane. He's the guy in the taxi.
Well, he was that famous at the time.
Yes.
That's pretty funny. I didn't realize that. I'll have to Howard Jarvis. Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. He passed away in 1986. But it was his idea that, you know what, like a lot of laws, it kind of on the surface made sense that older people were getting, makes sense now anyway, that older people were getting chased out of their homes by rising property taxes, and that there should be a cap. But what happened is it undermined the economy, because, of course, those property taxes went to schools. The California schools collapsed. Then we had a lottery. That was supposed to fix it, but that didn't work. And now we just have a bunch of drunk high school dropouts buying lotto tickets. So we all win.